I'm doing good too. Thank you.
Why don't you
Okay,
go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
sure. Thank you, Stuart. So, hi everyone. This is Prashant Sahu. So, I'm a blockchain consultant and a trainer in Simplilearn. And apart from that, I'm a professional Scrum Master and a Microsoft certified trainer. And apart from that, I have been having a lot of experience into this blockchain domain. I started my journey in the year 2015, precisely, if I would say. I started with Bitcoin, explored more about Bitcoin, and then later I moved into the blockchain technology because, as you may be aware, that behind this technology there is something called as a Bitcoin. So I started my journey with Bitcoin trading, and then later moved into the blockchain technology. So I have a lot of experience towards creating an enterprise level applications, work closely with the government of Telangana to create and land an enterprise blockchain. Apart from that, I've also represented India in the China International Big Data Expo 2018. Like from the Chinese government, I got a call, and I'm also representative of the government of International Blockchain Council for the government of Telangana and for the Goa. Recently, I've also published my patent, which is how to integrate the education certificates using IPFS and blockchain. So yeah, Stuart, this is a very short intro about me. Just want to showcase. Yeah, thank you, Stuart.
Yep. Congratulations on your patent.
Thank you.
So just to give everyone an orientation to what we're going to be talking about today, I'll go through very briefly with Prasant the curriculum of the IIT Kanpur Blockchain Program, and then Prasant will present a sample lesson out of that curriculum. We'll start with just the fundamentals of blockchain because it's a new technology. A lot of people are not familiar with it. So starting at the beginning makes sense for this particular exercise. And then after our Q&A, I'll tell you more about the IIT Kanpur program itself. So Prashant, you can help me as we go through this program curriculum. Start with the orientation session, which is just the session that helps learners understand the online platform that they'll be learning on, where to find their curriculum and classes, how to register for the live virtual classes, where to do their projects and so forth. Once they finish that orientation session, they move into that first introduction module. So that is the orientation to the technology and its applications. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So here they'll get an idea about what is this technology, what are its core properties, and the very first application of the blockchain technology, Bitcoin. So a very good orientation would be given with regards to what exactly is a blockchain, and as well as first application of the blockchain, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah. And then you move into some of the, well, the first tool, Ethereum. And what does Ethereum do exactly?
Right. So after which, yes, we exactly enter into Ethereum, which is one of the very famous application right now currently in the market. So using this Ethereum, generally we will be able to create our own decentralized application on top of the blockchain platform. So Ethereum gives us that liberty to go ahead and do. So we will learn about the basics of Ethereum and understand how to create the smart contracts and deploy the same on top of the Ethereum blockchain, which is the second application of the blockchain technology.
That along the way, as you're doing these modules, you're doing projects that cover the material that you're learning. So understanding consensus and hash, which is uh, fundamental to how the blockchain gets constructed, how you add blocks to the chain. So moving from that, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that's true. Uh, Consensus is all about the nature, the very nature of the blockchain, that why it is so unique in nature is because everything is distributed in nature. So the data gets distributed across all the nodes, and that is happening because of the consensus or understanding between all the nodes in the network. So we'll get to know what are the different types of consensus mechanisms and protocols as part of understand consensus and hashing mechanism. Yeah, just want to add that.
Thank you. And then you move into Hyperledger, which is an area of blockchain that application that allows you to extend to a lot of other practical applications in business and industry. Is that correct?
Yes. Hyperledger Fabric is absolutely an enterprise level oriented blockchain. So as you rightly said, Stuart, so it will be all about the practical aspects, like where we will be creating our own enterprise level applications. And Hyperledger Fabric is also a permissioned blockchain, which will be a right fit for the enterprise blockchain, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the next module on smart contracts and networks takes it even further into the kind of the practical and enterprise domain in terms of things like self-executing contracts. One of the areas where blockchain technology is expected to make one of its biggest impacts. Yes.
True. Absolutely.
And then we move into the other blockchain platforms and other areas having to do with Corda, IOTA, we're Internet of Things, and that type of
yes,
extended blockchain application.
Absolutely. Yes. These are the other platforms which we will explore as part of our program curriculum. Understanding what is R3 Corda, Internet of Things application. These are the two very good applications which have been running in the market. So we will also be able to get an insights about that, and as well as what are the other platforms which are being utilized with regards to the blockchain technology will also be discussed.
So based on this stepwise building of your skills, you get to the point where you can now look at the applications of blockchain in the real world and understand them more thoroughly, and how they were constructed, and approaches that could have been taken, that type of thing. That is the foundation and lead into the capstone project. So how does the capstone project work?
Okay, yes, absolutely. So as you rightly said, Stuart, so all these steps which you could see from bottom to top will actually give us a very good idea towards this technology. We will be having a lot of hands-on practical aspects where we will be creating a lot of applications, case studies, which are actually required for this technology. So we will be writing the smart contracts using Solidity programming language. We will be creating the Hyperledger Fabric application using Java and then Go language. We'll be focusing on multi-chain. So it's a combination of everything. And finally, we will be able to do a capstone project where we will take a real case study based on your understanding, whatever we have done, right? So you will be creating your own project with the guidance of the trainers so that you will be able to go ahead and showcase that project to the real world, that what exactly you have developed using the blockchain. So it's more toward the real case studies to it, which we are going to discuss as part of a capstone project.
Yeah, Prashant, that's very important, because that means that at the end of the program, the person receiving the certificate also receives their Git portfolio of all the projects they've done, including the capstone, so that they have practical experience now that they can demonstrate as part of their career development, job search, seeking a pay rise or a promotion. You have the evidence to back that up. And along the way, you can take the elective master classes from IIT Kanpur instructors and faculty that talk about different topics of blockchain. These are at no additional cost in the program, so those are really valuable. So I'm going to turn this over to you to talk about fundamentals of blockchain and basics of concepts behind it. So I will allow you to go ahead and share your screen.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be just sharing my screen and I'll be moving ahead to it. Okay, once these topics are completed, I'll hand it back to you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll be here.
Okay, let me quickly share my screen. Okay, hope that my screen is visible with a blank white board.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to give a small context of what exactly is blockchain, like how blockchain is actually important. What are all the things we have to consider? So I'll make it as precise as possible so that all of you could get an understanding like what exactly this technology is actually talking about. So the very first thing, as we are referring about the blockchain technology, so let me just put it up over here. So when I say blockchain technology, why are we talking about this technology? Like, what is that which is within this technology, which is actually making it so powerful that everyone is talking about this technology? You see everywhere the government entities, you take a service-based companies or product-based companies, everyone is striving to work towards this technology because there is some potentiality which is actually coming from this technology. So what I'm talking here specifically is, blockchain technology is actually providing is like how when we talk security, it's a very broad line. I feel if I would say the security is something like where a lot of components are being involved. So what I'm talking here specifically is, let me say you, in this fourth industrial revolution, we all know that data is an important asset. Whosoever is going to protect the data in the current market, they are the rulers. Okay, if you are not in a position to protect the data, then definitely you will not be in the market for a long time. So now we are looking at different alternatives and possibilities to make sure that we can be able to protect the data as much as we can. So how is this possible? What are all the things we have to consider is something which we are going to discuss right now as the fundamentals of the blockchain technology. So the very first thing, as you all have taken some amount of time and you've joined this respective webinar, so all of you should first need to understand that why have I come here? Why am I learning this technology? Is there any purpose of this technology which I'm gonna learning right now? Yes. The reason is we are talking about this blockchain technology to make sure that we can protect the data as much as we can. This is the first and foremost thing which we all should be able to consider. The main aspect of this blockchain technology is to go ahead and try to provide a security to the data. Data can be any type. Okay, it may be coming from the health sector, it may come from the finance sector, it may come from IT sector, whatever sector it may be. At the end of the day, it is a data. Now, if you are not in a position to protect the data, then it may go to the wrong hands. And then you know, if it goes to wrong hands, what will be the consequences? So today, in the market, why we are talking about blockchain technology is to ensure that we are protecting the data as much as we can using some of the concepts of the blockchain technology. So this is the core area which all of you should be able to understand. So when we talk about the blockchain technology, the main core part of this technology is to ensure that we are protecting the data as much as we can by providing a layer of security to our data. This is the reason why we are right now talking about the blockchain technology. As all of you may be aware, data is right now an asset. Okay, so if you are not in a position to protect this asset, then it may actually create a lot of problems. So that is the reason why we are all focusing on this technology and ensuring that how we can be able to proceed and protect the data as much as we can. So this is the fundamental thing which every one of you should first need to understand before we dig deep and understand what exactly this technology is all about. So blockchain technology is in a position right now to protect the data. Okay, we are providing security and transparency to whatever data it may be. That is the reason today there is a lot of demand for this technology because data is getting generated enormously. And if we are not in a position to protect that data, then it will become a very serious issue going forward, because if the data goes to wrong hands, the consequences will really be different. So that is where the blockchain technology is actually gonna fit, and it is gonna play a very vital role. This is something which we should all first need to consider with regards to blockchain technology. Now, moving little bit further, okay, moving little bit further, like as we got to know, okay, blockchain is all about protecting the data, giving a security to the data, providing the transparency to the data. So now we got a holistic view, at least, of what exactly this technology is all about. So let me go one step further and make every one of you understand what exactly is making this technology so strong that it is able to go ahead and try to protect the data. So there should be something which is within the technology which says that I am able to go ahead and protect the data. So it is actually giving you peace. It is giving you a good amount of sleep, because at the end of the day, the technology says you don't need to worry. Okay, you just implement me. I'm going to take care of whatever the data you want to preserve within me. And that is your blockchain. So we should know what exactly is there within this blockchain, so that today we are in a position to protect the data as much as we can. So now I'll be able to walk you through those things. So before we understand what are those properties or characteristics of the technology, which is actually making it so strong to protect the data. So before we enter into it, let me give you a small understanding of architecture of this technology. Like, what is a block? What is a chain? Why do we call it as a blockchain? Like, what is that which is getting stored within the blockchain? How the things are being outlined within it? So we should get some clarity with regards to it. So let me bring out that respective point to all of you, that how the blockchain actually looks like, what is that which is there within this technology. Then we will understand the properties of the blockchain technology, like what it is actually there within the blockchain, so that it is protecting the data in a very strong manner. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is, let me just put up the architecture in front of you, so that all of you would get a clarity that what it is all about. So now, see, the term says block, right? And then it says chain. Actually, these are two different words, block and chain, which are being clubbed together because there is a significance behind it, which you are going to get to know as part of the architecture. So now, let me say you one important thing. Let me consider a block. Okay, so let me consider a block over here. Now this is my block. So inside my block, what is that I'm going to have? Simply, I would say you are going to have your data. Now that data can be any data. It may be your education certificate, it may be your land record, it may be the patient record. Whatever domain you are been working with, you can be able to take that corresponding data and try to add the same into the block. So now the blocks are going to store something called as data within it. So you can be able to go ahead and store whatever data you want. Either it may be your crypto transactions which you do, like if you are transferring some amount of bitcoins, or if you are transferring some amount of ethers, or it may be a patient record or your education certificate. It may be any type of data which you can be able to take it up and add it within your block. The very first thing is your data, which is present inside a block. The second component which is present within the block is, which we call it as here, hash. Okay, what is a hash? To talk about hash, okay, let me make the concept very simple. Now, if I ask you a question, how do you identify as a unique person when compared to others? Many people will have different approaches, saying that you have your national identity as a different. Some people say my DNA is different. Some may say my iris scanner is different. Some say my fingerprint is unique when compared to others. I agree with all of them. But what I would suggest here is, let's take a fingerprint to make the concept very simple. Like how we have a fingerprint as a unique character for us. Like, let me say my fingerprint is unique, and at the same time, every one of you may be having your own corresponding fingerprints, which is unique actually when compared to others. So here, a block will also have its own fingerprint, and that is called as your hash. So hash here means it is a unique identity. Okay, whatever hash is present, The hash is actually the unique identity for a respective block. So whenever you see a block, every block will have its own unique identity, which we call it as a hash. So hash here is nothing but it is a unique identity for a corresponding block. So you can correlate this with your fingerprint. How you have your fingerprint as a unique identity for yourself, in the same way, every block will have its own fingerprint or a own unique identity, which we generally call it as a hash. Okay. Then the third important component of the block, that is something called as previous hash. Okay, we call it as the previous hash. Now this previous hash, I will be able to talk about this little later. Let's just give around 2 to 3 minutes of time to understand what is previous hash. So before this, I want to just elaborate this picture little bit. What I'm going to do right now here is we are talking about a particular block. So let me say if there are sequence of blocks, okay, let me say I'm just adding some sequence of blocks just to make the concept much easier to all of you. Okay, so now if you see there are around 5 blocks which are being present, right? It is block number 1, block number 2, 3, 4 and 5. I just want to number it. So now technically, if you just see this right, everyone can say me what are these. If I ask you, you will definitely be able to say me that these are your block numbers. But technically, we don't call this as a block number. Generally, there is a term being defined for this, and that is nothing but it is called as your block height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you are able to see the numbers over here, generally the person who is new to this technology, they may feel that this is a block number, which I totally agree. But gradually, when we move forward and understand the concepts appropriately, this shouldn't be called as a block number. Indeed, it should be called as something called as your block height. Okay. So when I say block height is nothing but it is your block number. We are referring technically it as the block height. Okay. So now, till now, if you see, every block is going to have what? The first component is data. Data can be any data which you want to store, which I already have explained in the block number 3. And then what it is going to have, the block number 1 is also going to have its own hash. Hash means it is a unique identity of this block, like how we have a fingerprint. Same happens for the block number 2. They have their own data and hash. Again, 3, 4, 5, every block. Like this, there are millions of blocks which are being created in the network. Millions of blocks. And every block is going to have the components, whatever we discussed right now. That is, every block is going to have their own data. Every block is going to have its own identity, which is a hash. And then they are also going to have something called as a previous hash, which we didn't discuss yet. So now it's time to discuss about what exactly is a previous hash also. Okay. So till now, if you see, all of these are blocks, right? But why do we call it as a chain then? If it would have been called as a block technology, it would have been nice, because everything is present in the block. There would be some sense if we would have called this as the block technology. But why did this chain got added to the term called as block and it finally became blockchain? Because if you take a normal chain, just take a normal chain, and what is the significance of a normal chain? Every link is interlinked. If you take a normal chain, right, every link, whatever is available, it gets interlinked. So now if you break that chain, it is very difficult. Let me say you have broken the chain successfully, and then you'll get to know where the link has been broken actually. That will give you the clear picture that where the link has been broken, and you'll get to know that what has happened behind this, like who is actually done this and from which link it has actually got hampered. Same concept, same mechanism can also be used over here when we talk about the chain. Every block here, let me say in my case, there are 5 blocks which I'm trying to show to all of you. So all these 5 blocks, I can be able to link them in the form of a links which are being present in a chain. So now block 1, 2, 3, all of these I'm going to link it. Like this, in the world, there are millions of blocks which are interlinked among themselves. Can you say me how? So now I'm going to show you that. Let me say you, let us start with the first block. The first block is having its own corresponding data, and it also has its own hash, which is the fingerprint of the first block. Now, first block hash will become second block's previous hash. Okay, so let me say the block 1 has a hash of, let us say, 1, 2, 3. Now this 1, 2, 3 here will become the previous hash of the block number 2. And again, block number 2 is going to have its own hash. That is its identity. Now, let me say block number 2 is having a hash of 456. Now, block 2 hash, which is 456, will become third block previous hash. Okay, that is 456 will be present here. And then again, third block is going to have its own hash. Let me say that is 789. Now, this chain will keep on going like this. Now, fourth block, when you go, again, fourth block is going to have its own data. It is also going to have its own hash. And whereas fourth block's previous hash will be what? Third block hash, which is 456 is there, right? That will become the fourth block's previous hash. So it will become here 456. In this way, if you observe, all the blocks which are being there in the network, they are all interlinked. All of them are here being interlinked in the form of the previous hash. So they are all linked in the backward direction. If you are aware of the concept of linked list, it is more or less same. Okay, these are all being interlinked in such a way so that if anybody wants to come and tamper any of the block, so you are not giving them only one block to tamper, but you are giving them that if you want to go and break anything, not only this corresponding block, you have to break everything which is connected to it. So you are making the attacker's life difficult. For example, if an attacker comes and tries to hamper the third block, so you are not saying that it's okay, you come and try to hamper the third block, that's it. No, you are saying if you want to attack third block, you can do that. But apart from that, you also need to attack the fourth block, fifth block, like this. Whatever the sets of blocks are there, you have to go ahead and break all of them. Then only you can become a successful attacker. So we are making the attacker life here very difficult, saying that not a single block, but you have to go and break all the links which are interlinked in the form of the previous hash all throughout the blocks. So that is the reason we call this as the blockchain. The reason being here is every block in this case is being interlinked with the help of the previous hash. So simply to be said, first block has its hash. This hash will become the second block's previous hash. Second block will also have its own corresponding hash. Then second block's hash will become the third block previous hash. Then third block will also have its own hash. Again, third block hash will become the fourth block's previous hash, and fourth block will have its own hash. Fourth block hash will become the fifth block previous hash, and fifth block will again have its own hash. In this way, every block in the network is said to be interlinked in the form of the chain mechanism. This is what we call it as the blockchain. Okay, this is how every block is said to be interlinked, and they are all being designed appropriately. Now, the very first block inside the blockchain is called as the Genesis block. Okay, the first block inside the blockchain is called as your Genesis block. The name of the first block inside the blockchain network is actually called as your Genesis block. Whereas rest of the blocks, they are not having any such name as Genesis. Only the first block within the blockchain network is actually called as your Genesis block. Whereas the corresponding blocks, they have their own block height. So if you see here in the block number 1, what will be the previous hash of my block 1? If you closely observe this, the previous hash of my first block will be 0. What is the reason behind it? Because this is my first block, right? There are no blocks before it, or there are no blocks prior to it. So as there are no blocks prior to it, so automatically you can actually be able to see that as there are no blocks prior to it, right? So previous hash by default will be 0. So you are not going to have any other components being added over here. And this is only for the first block, because as you know, this is the first block, and as there are no blocks prior to it, so obviously the previous hash becomes 0 in this case. So this is how the entire architecture of the technology looks like. This is something which all of you should be having at least a small overview or an idea that how this blockchain is architected and how it is being designed, so that we all can be able to leverage the benefit of it. So in every block, what is that we are going to have? The data. Okay. And every block is interlinked with the help of the previous hash. And every block has its unique identity, which is its hash, which you can correlate it with your fingerprint. And every block has its own block number. Okay, we don't call it as a block number. If you remember, I said technically we call it as the block height. Okay, it should be referred as the block height. That's it. These are certain core topics which you should be first aware before you go ahead and dig deep into this technology. Okay, now there is still a pending question which we discussed at the start. What is that which is actually making this technology so strong, safe, and secure? What are certain components which are being available within this technology? You can call it as a properties of the technology. You can units, so that you can be able to achieve that capability to go ahead and mine yourself.
And I think part of that question also is, how do you get authorization within the structure of a given blockchain to be one of the miners?
That's what, like, if you want to become a miner, so you have to first achieve the computation power. Second, you have to become a full node. Full node here means you will have such a system capability. You need to have a good storage of your system where you can be able to handle all the blockchain within your system itself. So you need to become a full node. You need to have the computation power. If these two criteria is met, you can be able to go and play with your block. That means play in the sense you can create your own blocks.
And we have a question from someone from a mechanical background who wants to pivot into blockchain technology. How would you recommend they proceed that?
Yes. See, this technology is actually not within only the IT domain or a software domain. Okay, this technology is applicable everywhere, wherever the data is present. Even from mechanical background, you may go to the machines, you may go to the labs, you have a tons of data which is related to your product, which is confidential. And we should be able to know how to protect that data, how to make it more secure. What are the ways in which we can be able to align our mechanical background towards this respective blockchain technology? Even Niti Aayog is also trying to transform so many projects which are not from the IT background. Still, they are going ahead and doing a lot of things. So I would suggest that we will be having a very good opportunity to know about this technology. And programming also, it's very simple, and a new programming language. What we are going to learn is new programming languages. So you'll get a very good chance to go ahead and learn yourself and get a good exposure towards this technology. It will be applicable to all the domains to it.
And this is what we're talking about in just a couple minutes with regard to the IIT Kanpur program, yes?
Yes.
Radhika asked a question if there's a limitation on the number of blocks that can be mined.
As of now, no. As long, sorry, Stuart, as long as you have computation power, as long as you have enough computation power, you can go ahead and mine as many blocks as you can.
Yeah, and the chain can extend.
Yes.
As far as you want it to extend.
Absolutely.
Suresh asks if the blockchain, how does blockchain differ from the big data distributed processing model, where you have auto scaling of distributed nodes for processing.
Understood. Yes, so see, big data also has its own distributed model, right? Where you can be able to go ahead and handle, which I totally agree with you, Suresh. Blockchain is also having the capability to distribute the data. But what they are having additionally is like you can create a decentralized application directly on top of the blockchain. And on top of that, you can also be able to use some cryptographic algorithms on top of it and can be able to make it much more safe and secure. And along with that, you can also be able to go ahead and create your own